So understanding that this was a proposal that Joseph was giving Pharaoh. Of course, it was a very strong one because he had just interpreted the dream, but nonetheless, Joseph was giving Pharaoh a proposal on what he thought he should do. So in Genesis 41:37 to 44, it says, "And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all of his servants. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, Can we find such a one as this is? A man of whom the Spirit of God is?" So let's stop right there. Are you, when people find you, are they saying this about you? Are you one as Joseph, a man whom the Spirit of God is with? Because people can see it. Let's keep going. And Joseph said, and Pharaoh said unto Joseph, For as much as God hath showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. So Pharaoh recognized that Joseph was going to be the discreet and wise man. So remember, Joseph had been through many things. Joseph did not have the easiest time in life. He was very loved by his father. He was hated by his brothers. He was betrayed. He was put into slavery. He did well for everybody that he worked with. Still, Potiphar put him into prison. Although he was put into prison, he became master over those in the prison. And now Joseph is standing before Pharaoh. So, in order to become this discreet and wise man, Joseph had been through a lot of preparation, before he was chosen by Pharaoh. And Pharaoh tells him, And thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. So, Joseph has become second in command to Pharaoh, and his word shall be what rules the people of Egypt. And only the throne will be greater than thou. So only Pharaoh is going to be greater than Joseph. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, See, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. So Joseph was set over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen. And he put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had. And they cried before him, Bow the knee. And he set him over all the land of Egypt. So Joseph uh, was known as a man who the Spirit of God was with. He was known as a man who could interpret dreams and give high level divine proposals to Pharaoh of Egypt, and because of it, he was set over all of Egypt. And Genesis 41 tells us, and Joseph 46, and Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went throughout all the land of Egypt. Don't ever think you're too young or too old. You know, uh, Joseph was 30 years old when he became the second in command unto Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. So no matter what age you are, walk with the Lord, have integrity, and God will be with you and he will prosper you because you need God to prosper you. Genesis 41, 48, and 49 says, And Joseph gathered corn as the sand of the sea, very much, until he left numbering, for it was without number. And Joseph gathered corn and caused to be laid up in the cities, every man according to his eating. And he laid up the corn in the cities, and had food in abundance in the cities. So Pharaoh appoints Joseph as viceroy, second in command, and Joseph immediately executes centralization, collection, and city level stores. So Joseph doesn't wait when he gets his assignment. He immediately executes. Um, and when you look at he gathered corn as the sand of the sea. It communicates a massive, systematic accumulation of corn. And that's what Joseph is doing here. So the 7 years of plenty and then the 7 years of famine. So Genesis 41, 52, 57. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh. For God said he, for God, said he, hath made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. And the name of the second called he Ephraim, for God hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. So Joseph felt as if Egypt was the land of his affliction, which it was. Joseph went through many things in Egypt. It says, in the 7 years of plenteousness that was in the land of Egypt were ended, and the 7 years of dirt, the famine, began to come, according as Joseph had said. And the dirt was all in all lands, both in the land of Egypt, where there, but in all the but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. And when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said unto all the Egyptians, go unto Joseph, what he said to you, do it. So, and the famine was over all the face of the earth. And Joseph opened all the storehouses unto the Egyptians, and the famine waxed sore in the land of Egypt. So Joseph opens the stores and sells grain under Pharaoh's authority. So he's implementing distribution, price mechanisms to meet domestic demand, and eventually international need. Because if you could see, it says that, and the famine was over all of the face of the earth. So this was not just in Egypt where people were going to have a need. So during this time period, there's a great famine in the land. Joseph uses fiscal measures during this famine. So grain sales, money exchange, livestock exchange, land exchange, as well as taxation, and even down to the physical body itself. So let's read in Genesis 47, starting at verse 13. And there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very sore, so that the land of Egypt and all the land of Canaan fainted by reason of the famine. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the corn which was brought. So all of the money that was in the land of Egypt, all of the money that was in the land of Canaan, now was given unto Joseph for Pharaoh. And Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. So let's think about this for a second. So Joseph has basically bankrupt all of the people in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan. So Joseph's business model, Joseph's divine insight, Joseph's business structure was so powerful and so God led and so God inspired that he was able to collect all of the money in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan. So let's keep going on. And when the money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, so the money failed, they don't have any more money to give in the land of Egypt. They don't have any more money to give in the land of Canaan. And all the Egyptians came unto Joseph and said, give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence? For the money faileth. So at this point, the money has failed. They don't have any more money. Or local currency that they use in Egypt, whatever they were using at the time. And Joseph said, well, now give me your cattle. So you may not have any more money. Give me your cattle, and I will give you for your cattle if money fails. So Joseph says, look, okay, you don't have any more money. Bring me your cattle, and I'll give you corn. So mind you, all of the resources that Joseph is getting, he's giving it back to his Pharaoh, giving it back to his master Pharaoh. So Joseph is enriching Pharaoh, and uh, all through this business model that he created, or that God has given him. So they brought their cattle to Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for horses, and for the flocks, and for the cattle of the herds, and for the asses, and he fed them with the bread for that year. And when that year was ended, because mind you, this is 7 years, they came unto him the second year. So we're only in year one. We're only in year one. And the people have had to give all of their money. They've given all of their cattle. So let's see what's about to happen now. So imagine having a business so successful that people bring you everything that they have. Okay, so it says, when the year was ended, they came unto him the second year and said unto him, we will not hide it from my Lord, how that our money is spent. My Lord also hath our herds of cattle. There is not aught left in the sight of my Lord, but our bodies and our land. They say, wherefore shall we die before thy eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread, and we and our land will be servants unto Pharaoh. Give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land be not desolate. So at this point, mind you, Joseph interprets the dream. Joseph tells Pharaoh what to. Joseph said, God interprets the dream and lets Joseph be the one to relay it to Pharaoh. Let's just make that clear. Joseph gives insight on what he's already been prepared to give insight to Pharaoh about. He tells Pharaoh what to do. Pharaoh puts him in charge over it. He begins to get it done. Now the famine hit. So the people say, we've given you all our money. We've given you all of our cattle. Now the only thing that we have left are our bodies and our land. And they say, should we die, us and our land, for bread? So they say, no, we'll give you our bodies. We'll give you our land that we may not die. So Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh. For the Egyptians sold every man his field, because the famine prevailed over them, and the land became Pharaoh's. Because Pharaoh put Joseph second in command, and God prospers Joseph. Now everything in the land of Egypt belongs to Pharaoh. A business model so concrete that everything now belongs to you. Not getting over on anybody, not taking anything from anybody, but having a product, having an idea so powerful that people give everything, even their very servitude, to have it. So, and Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh, and the Egyptians sold every man his field, because the famine prevailed over them, and the land became Pharaoh's. And as for the people, he made servants unto them, he made servants unto Pharaoh, from one end of the borders of Egypt unto the other. Only the land of the priests brought he not, for the priests had a portion assigned them of Pharaoh, and did eat their portion which Pharaoh gave them, and therefore they sold not their lands. Then Joseph said unto the people, behold, I have brought you this day and your land for Pharaoh. Lo, Here is seed for you, and ye shall sow the land. So Joseph didn't just take the people. Now Joseph has servants as well. So Joseph has all the money, he has all the cattle, he has all the land, and he has all the manpower. And he did this legally. Now Joseph puts seed in the hands of his servants, and now they are increasing Pharaoh even more because now they are going to be sowing the land at no additional cost to Pharaoh. And it shall come to pass in the increase that ye shall give a fifth part unto Pharaoh. So now Pharaoh is going to be legally and legitimately getting a fifth part of all of the land that now belongs to him, and still feeding all of the people around him. And the four parts shall be your own for seed of the field, and for your food, and for them of household, and for your household, and for the food of your little ones. So 80% of what the Egyptians. So Joseph not only set Pharaoh up, but he also set the people up, if they wanted to where they could be prosperous as well. So no one would be going hungry under Joseph's plan. Pharaoh would prosper, Joseph would prosper, and the people would prosper as well. And this is what the people had to say to Joseph. And they said, "Thou hast saved our lives. Let us find grace in the sight of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servants." So they just wanted grace and mercy and to be fed. And Joseph did that. So uh, very interesting. Very interesting. So monetize stored commodities. So Joseph sold grain from the storehouses. He first collected money for the grain purchases, commodity for asset exchange. When money ran out, Joseph accepted livestock in exchange for grain. So this preserved value and prevented immediate starvation. So think about commodity for asset exchange. Transition from private ownership to state ownership. So as famine continued and people exhausted their money, their livestock, they had to sell their land and themselves to Pharaoh for bread. So Joseph facilitated these transactions and consolidating land under Pharaoh's control. Uh, preserve a religious exception. So the priesthood uh, lands were exempted because the priests received Pharaoh's portion. And then seed, loan, and revenue model. Joseph provided seed to the people with a condition that in the harvest they give 1/5, 20% to Pharaoh, and keep 4/5, 40% for themselves and their households. This is a state revenue model, resource provision now and for future yield share. So now we have a plan for the future and moving forward. If this ever was to happen again. So outcome, the social and economic integration. So people acknowledged Pharaoh's authority and they became his servants. While the nation's land and produce were administratively organized to ensure future sustenance and state revenue, because people didn't want to suffer like this again. So buffering, build reserves in surplus years. Monetization and exchange, sell reserves for currency. Accept alternative assets when currencies fail. Asset consolidation, acquire land to secure food production under central authority when private owners are insolvent. You know, preservation of essential institutions, retain priestly lands, exempt to maintain religious order and social order. Protecting the church and doing well, not protect, but doing what we can to retain the order of the believers, and then in Jesus Christ, and then revenue share and incentives. So provide seed, and require a fifth as revenue. Align incentives to cultivate and give the and that to cultivate and give the state sustainable income while leaving families with sustenance. So we're gonna go over just quickly, just go over this right quick. So, number one, what did Joseph do? So Joseph diagnosed the problem. He interpreted the problem by God's interpretation. The problem was 7 years of abundance and 7 years of famine. Um, you have to design leadership and governance, appoint capable and discreet managers and officers to run the programs. Collect surpluses. If there's surpluses, collect portions of those surpluses. Monetize stores. During the initial famine, they sold grain for money to sustain the population and increase the state coffers. Accept asset exchanges. When currency is exhausted, you can accept something else. Consolidate land and labor. Institutionalize a revenue. Uh, Preserve essential institutions. Humanitarian and strategic relocation, and then legacy reconciliation. So Joseph um, was a man who was discreet and wise, who established a national disaster management program, and he provided a national food economy. So the reason why we look at Joseph's administrative ways is because they were very successful. Joseph was able to um, take up and collect everything in the land of Egypt. So there's a lot of good information with Joseph, a lot of things to learn. So hope that you learned something today. Uh, we'll see you at the next video.